Hey,
Hi.
all right. It's time for Life Lessons Live with the crew once again. It's good to be back in the studio, and we're going to have a great discussion on today. And as you know, we believe here that conversations birth new seasons, and we want you to join in the conversation. You can do that on Facebook by commenting in the comment section. We are live. We'll see you. See your comments live as they come in, and put them up on the screen so we can have some dialogue. And thank God for these beautiful people that are with us today. We're going to be talking about embracing change, again, intentional and non-intentional, and some suggestions, some things you can do to um, embrace it, to have success at it. Change isn't bad. Change is necessary,
Right.
and change brings about progress. And so, if you can't progress, you can't make any progress if you don't embrace change. And change has to do with the renewing of the mind. Okay. So the way you think about it, we're going to talk about preparedness. Have we prepared for change? Do we think about change, or are we kind of stuck sometimes? But change is happening all the time. So listen, I want these guys to introduce themselves to you, and then we're going to get in and jump in feet first. Amen. In this conversation about change. All right. Y'all introduce yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Stephanie Monique, right here from Tupelo, Mississippi. Educator and mentor here, and just a worshiper and a server. And I'm excited to always be in the midst of great people and great conversation.
Amen.
Yes. Well, I'm Charlotte Polk, right here from Tupelo, Mississippi, and I just love the little people. Like I said, they can boss me around.
Oh my.
Yes, they really can. I just want them to be able to explore, learn in a very healthy environment. I'm a youth advisor here too. Also, just
Okay.
glad to be here.
Awesome.
Hello, my name is Dee. I am also an educator here in Tupelo, Mississippi. I teach fifth grade math, so I teach the bigger little people. Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm just a servant and love to be involved in good ways.
Amen. And listen, we got to clap our hands because she just got her master's degree. Amen. From U of M. Praise God.
Excited.
Amen. Congratulations. Yeah. Yeah, we dancing for you. Praise God. Yeah. Amen.
That's
Amen.
good.
So that thing, I know that's work. You know, there's work. You had to do that on purpose. Okay.
Yeah.
That didn't just come. You did that on purpose.
Come
You
on.
know, because you're teaching in the classroom, you're studying, you're getting them papers written, all of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Sacrifice. But it did it to help you, to prepare you for what you love, equipping children for life, educating them, making sure they can be successful. And that's what we hear. That's what we're talking about. You know, quality of our preparation determines the quality of our performance. And when we can embrace change, know that change is necessary, it's happening all the time. Some are intentional, some are non-intentional. As Minister D, she went to school, she furthered her education so that she can be better, even more equipped and prepared for the educating young people and helping them to shape their lives. And so again, hats off to her. But knowing when we embrace change, we can make progress. We can make progress. Things can be good. Like she said, I love being a part of good things, things that's going to make a difference. And you know what? That's life. You know, that's life. And when we can embrace change, we have a saying at Words of Faith Church, life is good. You know, I learned that I had to learn how to live life. You know, there's a time you can assume you know how to live life, but it wasn't until I began to renew my mind to the one who authored life, which was God. You know, he's the author and finisher of our faith, and he's the one that created life. And so when I went back to him and said, you know, how do I do this thing? You know, I'm just saying that, you know, I began to have success and enjoy it. and I then can say life is good. And then I could take one of my favorite scriptures in Romans 8:28, 29, and 30, and you know that all things are working together for good for them that love God, who are the called according to his purpose. Praise God. And so every one of us have a purpose, and when we can adjust to that and embrace that, we can begin making a difference. Okay. So last week we talked about change, just to be made different, or to do things differently. I know there in Tupelo, thank God for God's grace covering the people there once again. There's a storm. There was a storm. There were things that happened. Some people are adapting to some changes. They had their homes, was damaged some, and just different things that are going on. And now they're adjusting. And, I think about insurance agents. They call them adjusters. They come out and they try to accommodate you, make you feel comfortable, and let you know that we can get through this. This is what we're going to do. Here's the plan, can point you in the right directions of different types of things so that we can have some forward progress. Okay. So when we think of change and we think of it as forward progress, that's a whole mindset, and it helps us to process things. One of the things we talked about last week, we talked about age. It just happens. Things are changing all the time. And, people change. People are changing. Places have changed. We was talking before we got on the air. Stephanie migrated here when she was 13 years old. And I won't tell you how old she is, but that was some years ago. And Tupelo has changed. It has changed. It doesn't look the same. Some things have been reconfigured. So the place changed, and we had to adapt to it. I can remember when Tupelo, Gloucester was only 2 lanes. And then I seen a picture of it when I went through Leadership Tupelo, that it was a dirt road and people were on it with horse and buggies, and I was like, wow, look how much has changed, things change. So it's happening all the time. And then we talked about how are people handling change? They say middle-age crisis, all those types of things. And so how are you guys seeing in your world? We talked about the little people. We talked about the preteens, the 5th graders and 6th graders. Stephanie, core group of people that you're working with. And with all the things that are going on in the world, how do we see people handling change? Anybody?
It's a two-way street, Bishop. Some are handling it. They're taking it smoothly, going with the flow of things, with the, even just if we were talking about COVID, how COVID has changed the way we do things. And then some are being those mumblers and complainers and making it worse than what it is. So I guess it's according to the maturity level.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay. Yeah. So maturity plays a big role in it.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. What about having vision? Stephanie, you were going to say something. Come on.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of like Dee. Like I seen people, like roll and tuck and just go on with it. Like, I can't stop. I got to keep moving. But I've also seen some be, kind of knocked off of their square. Like I don't know what to do. How do I move forward? Some are fearful because they lack skills, or maybe they lack provision, or whatever the case may be. But I have seen that some just kind of like stop, so they become stagnated and fearful, and not able to move forward. With just the way we're doing things now, and even myself, this is a hot moment for me. I'm a people person. And so I like to be around people. And physical touch is one of my
Y'all
love.
carry on.
Yes, sir. Physical touch is one of my love languages. And so, I'm a hugger. Come on, I had a whole hug ministry. And so now I'm sending virtual hugs and I'm like, Lord, this just not the same now. We're gonna have to do something about this. And so sometimes I just go around people so I can be like, are you hugging people today? Are you hugging? Okay, let's hug. Because that's who I am. And so it was kind of it was an adjustment. And so I think that, we got to learn how to adjust and then what to adjust. And then knowing that it's for the betterment, of yourself and for other people too. And so I had to pull back and reserve and realize, hey, it's not just about me. I have to be mindful of everybody else too, because everybody, is not where I am as far as like faith or convictions, or even just, some people don't like to be touched. They don't like to be hugged, and so it was an adjustment for me. So like I said, I see sometimes people are stagnant, but then other people are just like, hey, let's roll with it. We gotta do this. Okay, let's go. We just shift and move. Maturity, wisdom, knowledge, experience has a lot to do with it too. We're afraid of the unknown. If it's uncomfortable for us, you can forget that because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what is beyond what I know. And so now you have to find out what you don't know so that you can be better. So, stagnation. And then some people, like I said, they like stop, drop, roll. Let's go with it. So,
what do you think is the difference between that person and the person that's stagnated?
Like I said, for me, I think some of that is just fear of the unknown, a lack of confidence, a lack of ability, a lack of knowledge, knowledge. Fear of, not the right people around you in the environment. I've been in environments where, people are just not excited or enthusiastic. And then I'd be like, well, why I'm so happy and excited, So I think it's several things.
Okay. So we talked about vision and faith is important when you start talking about progress. Where there's no vision, people perish.
That's it.
And where there's faith, there's fear.
That's good.
Where there's no faith, there's fear.
Right. No faith.
Where there's faith, there's fear. And to have faith, you got a component of faith is agreement. Embracing change. Say, okay, things are different. There's a need to change. There's a need to do things differently. We're in the 21st century. I can remember my grandfather. He was not up for the cordless phone. Oh no! You can go across the room with that thing and be talking. Go outside and be talking on that thing. He said that's devilish right there.
That's the devil. Yes.
That's the devil.
I heard that. Yes, I did. They might be on the phone or washing clothes or doing nothing when God is doing His business. When it's storming outside, don't you be on that phone.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he said, y'all come get this devilish thing. He wasn't going to answer it. He wasn't going to do none of that. He want no parts of it. But, part of it is agreement, agreeing with it. And what you said, Stephanie, learning, knowing what you need to know. A lot of people don't research. They don't prepare for change. What's coming, what's new. Change is on the horizon. Thank God for my children. They're telling me, Dad, you got to start looking into cryptocurrency. Things are changing, the way they're doing business now. And I said, okay, well, I got to start doing some research now.
Right.
I can't fight it. I need to do it. And so agreement is a part of it. And then committing to it. And then obedience. That's all components of faith,
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Stephanie.
Bishop, and so you said something about vision. So that just made me think, like, if we can't see past where we are right now in the moment, it'll be hard for us to shift or to make a shift,
Okay.
or to move from where we are. And so vision does have a lot to do with that. You know, like we say,
Okay.
you know, seeing your tomorrow today,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but being able to see yourself. And this is a abstract thing. And so, because we are tangible creatures. And so it's hard for us to get into that place because we're so concrete.
Okay.
So that's a component too.
Yeah.
Amen.
But I like what y'all were saying on the internal change, like the things that force us to change, like the pandemic has forced us to change. But we have to take it a step further. Like, what if we had a disaster? You know, the preparedness. And then when you're trying to do your policy or your procedure or your vision with your children, you have to be able to get them and again demonstrate them, you know, to take the proper changes when we do have disasters. Not just the pandemic, we're talking about, you know, like disaster storms. And so I like it when there is a preparedness. We have to go and be trained for that safe space preparedness if we have to evacuate. Imagine that. I was thinking just the other day while this storm was happening, do we talk to our little kids about where to go, you know, how to escape, where to meet up at? We used to do that a long time ago, but are we still doing that as a family? We need to, you know, have that kind of protocol going on in our home environments also.
A plan of action.
A plan of action, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
D, when we were talking about learning, and you got fifth graders. Was it fifth and sixth graders or just fifth graders?
Fifth graders.
Fifth graders. Can they embrace learning to see that it's going to benefit them in their future? Talking about vision, seeing their tomorrow today. Can they embrace their education? What you are teaching them, do they embrace it decently to say, this is going to help me later on? This is a part of me preparing for life.
Bishop, some of them do.
Okay.
It's about maybe like a 80-20. 80% of them do. They see, okay, I need to have this so that I can further myself beyond fifth grade, looking beyond fifth grade. And then some of them, they don't appreciate it. They don't appreciate the opportunities. They don't appreciate the ones that are trying to instill in them what this can do for you, for your future. And a lot of it comes from how the guardians view education. If the guardians are not involved in the education, their viewpoint is not really positive. And if they don't have anybody around them that says, hey, you can do this, you can do that, they don't have a positive viewpoint beyond the fifth grade. Okay. They see the streets and such, but 80% of them do. They know what they want to be, or at least have an idea of what they want to be when they grow up. So they suck it in.
Okay. Elder Velma Hill says it's what's at home. It's what's at home is what you said. Depending on if education is a priority. And I think that we have to have some conversations, because I believe conversations birth new seasons about preparation, preparedness. This is what this is going to, if why is not big enough, people are not going to do enough. This is why you need to have these things in your life, you know, so that you can live a better life later on. Because if they're just in the moment, they want to play right now, or they want to do whatever is right in front of them, not knowing that life is going to happen. There's going to come a time when you're going to be responsible to take care of yourself. You're going to have to make decisions. You know, you teach math. A lot of people think I can use a calculator, but math is more than just about adding up numbers, and that it helps you to think. Okay, it's about developing your cognitive skills, you know, critical thinking and all of that. And they may not have experienced enough life to know that they're going to have some critical situations that they don't have to think their way through. Okay. Process that thing appropriately so they can make the right decision, so they can have the right outcome. And, you know, I think some adults don't know that, and they're not preparing themselves for the future. We got some intentional things that happen. We're talking about change. You can do it intentionally. And then there's times in life where it just happens, And I want to just talk about a few of those things. Graduating from high school, you know, that can be a real culture shock. And if they hadn't prepared, what are they going to do? You know, so how can we help young people, the little people, and young people, preteens and things of nature, know and help them to embrace change, embrace learning, and prepare themselves for life?
Bishop, I remember Dr. Nikita Shelton. She's
Okay.
a counselor, I think, maybe Shannon area, Verona, Plainfield, somewhere in that area. But I remember her coming to Leadership Institute and just having a conversation. And she shared this one time with us before, and it blew my mind. She said that it, because she was, doing counseling with some African American children and then also some European children, Caucasian children, and just the background of preparedness was so different. In the homes, she was saying that the Caucasian children, at the age of 4, 5, 6, and 7, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, I'm going to work in my Uncle Tommy's law firm because Daddy said, or my mama said. So they started preparing them at early ages, telling them stories or maybe taking them to the locations or to the environments, taking them on field trips. Like they knew the plan. There was a plan outline for their life. They knew the strategy. They knew, how it was going to happen, what school they were going to go to. Such and such went to Ole Miss, so I'm going to Ole Miss. And Mama did this, so I'm going to do this. And so, they prepared their children with the foundation. And so you don't necessarily see that as much in the African American community. And so when she shared that, I was just like, wow, so I guess how we can prepare children or people in general is starting at an early age, definitely, with outlining something, taking them around, letting them know, taking them out of the environment that they're in, giving them vision, letting them see that there is something outside of the county line or your zip code or your state, your neighborhood. I remember when I was younger and we used to take field trips, and I was in Chicago. So you mentioned about coming from Chicago to Mississippi. That was a culture shock for me because I was able to go where I wanted to go when I wanted to go because we had a bus system. I had money. I had my own keys. I was very mature for my age to be operating in a big city like that. And, I remember going to museums at an early age. I remember going to the aquariums. I remember going to environments or neighborhoods that, houses. I was like, oh my God, that's a mansion. And it was like a 3 or 4 bedroom house. I remember that. And so I think preparing them, giving them something to see outside of what they see already is the way that we can start rooting that in them.
So what you're describing is casting vision.
Okay.
We got to cast vision before people. Where there's no vision, people perish. Where there's no prophetic insight, and sometimes we're dealing with first generation visionaries. Okay, because if you don't get in the environment of vision, your environment becomes your vision. And that's where some people are stuck. And that's where some people reject change because their environment has become their vision. And they can begin to guard that. They're territorial. They don't want things to change. We talked about the difference between you can live in Pontotoc, Shannon, Tupelo, Baldwin, the different surrounding counties around. And I think it was talking about it might have been in my Bible school, but anyway, there's different ways of thinking, and you can see where there may be one group of people that they're guarding what they have. They don't want it to change. They don't want things to evolve, and it's still staying the same way. And people are still trying to do things the same way, and they're rejecting change rather than embracing change, and don't want it to change. So if you don't get in the environment of vision, your environment becomes your vision. Okay. And so we got to know this is an important component of embracing change. vision, faith, and preparedness. All those things are so preparing that child for graduating from high school, knowing that there's life beyond this. You know, cheerleading is not going to get you through the door anymore. You got to do more than cheerleading, you know,
And playing ball too.
and playing ball.
Yeah.
You know, you got to do more than
Although
that.
it's good.
Huh?
I said, although it's good, but I like what you said. I don't want to interrupt. I'm listening.
No, come on.
Okay. I like what you said about the vision. And I was telling you about how our family gets together and we'll sit down and make visions. And, you know, Thanksgiving, my dad used to pull us to the table and tell us or ask us, you know, what was our vision for our families. And he had one for us as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
But as you grow, you mature, everybody, you know, go into their different cities, and then you come back together and you find yourself still kind of working not together but on projects but not together. And so as a big family, my thing is, how do you come back around, you know, because we're so busy. We can be so busy that we miss it.
Okay.
That's what he used to tell us all the time. Y'all are missing it. And so we can be so busy that we miss the vision. Does that make sense? To me, it makes a lot of sense to me, because he never wanted to control us, because he wanted us to have say so in it. When you have say so in it, it becomes more valuable to you as a person when you're putting it together. But sometimes I think we miss it, and I don't know if we're just too busy to come back in, or God just gives us different things at different times. That's what I found.
When I'm teaching on vision,
people don't want to reveal things, you know, or they prematurely. That's me. I don't like to reveal things prematurely. I want it to sink in, you know. I want it to be from God before I reveal it. But you know, that's kind of what, you know, where I am
with vision. There's some things that we got to do when it comes to vision. One, I teach this when I'm teaching on vision. Where there's vision, there's also goals. You got to have vision, you got to have goals, and then you got to have a strategy. Okay. And then you got to have priorities. And one of the things that happens when life happens, life changes happen, people change, environments change, but your vision doesn't have to change. And so what happens is you schedule your priorities and stop prioritizing your schedule, because life will put a demand on you that you didn't expect to happen. Take, for instance, a young lady who has a vision for her life, and life happens, and say she has a child. Okay. Say she has a child. Well, that's a change, man. That's a life-changing experience. But if she stays focused, okay, and she continues to have faith in her vision, and she casts in that vision, where there's vision, there's also provision. God will send a village around her to help her with that child. She can finish. Her vision was to get an education. She can get that education because she's focused. Okay. Because she's focused and she's keeping her priorities together. I know she just had a child, and that child just became a part of those priorities, but it doesn't change her vision for her life. And so when you have people that's there to support and encourage, and she has a strong mind and is committed to that vision for her life, then we can have success. So vision, goals, and strategies. So now her strategies got to change, but her goals don't have to change. Okay. So we don't ever change the vision or the goals, but we may have to change the strategy. Strategy is just a plan of action in order to achieve a goal.
Right.
Okay. So, and listen, you got to make sure that you're in the environment of visionaries and others that believe too, because you got vision killers.
Yes.
Okay. People that will tell you, well, you can't do it now because of this or because of that. Well, that's not so. What I have to do is just come up with another strategy, another plan of action in order to do it. Okay. And so, yeah, that's about change. Okay. That's change. That's an abrupt change in one's life, but it doesn't have to change the vision, doesn't have to change the goal. Okay. May change the strategy, but not the goal or the vision.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bishop, while you was talking, I was thinking about sometimes we, like you were talking about your father with the phone, sometimes we don't want to move because we're too comfortable where we are. And that's something that happened with me when I graduated from college. My goal at that time was to go straight into my master's, but I didn't. And I let some
Okay.
years pass. And a couple of years ago, something uncomfortable had to happen to me to push me to say, hey, this was the goal. Let's get back on track and let's do it. So sometimes we have to let that uncomfortable come out of our comfort zone and let that uncomfortable aspect push us. So yes, we got to learn to let go of uncomfortable. I mean,
that's true. Yeah. We can become complacent. We can become comfortable. And that's why, I teach about focus, function, and then finishing, and continuing to be prepared for change, because we got to get to the point we know change is going to happen, and when we're continually reading, when we're continually praying, listen, this is a part of it. When we're continually praying, God will allow us to continue to see further than where we're presently at. And he will alert us to change is on the horizon. Okay. You can see the landscape changing. He'll allow you to hear things different. You watch the news is different. You just have a different perspective on life. And when you have God's perspective on life, you can always move forward and make progress, because he's always changing. The Bible tells us to go from faith to faith. Okay. And from glory to glory. And so with that suggests change. Okay. That's change. We're continually changing. The just shall live by faith. One of the scriptures we always talk about as believers is we walk by faith and not by sight. Okay. That word walk is to make progress, forward progress. Okay. Yeah. Forward progress. And it's by faith that we do those things. So when we stay in communion with God, in prayer and in fellowship with God, he can always get us to prepare for the next place of our destiny. Okay. He declared our end from the beginning, and our steps are ordered by the Lord. And we'll stay in close proximity with him and don't get distracted. Okay. And make sure that he stays our priority. He can order our steps every place that we need to go. I remember when I was in corporate America, job was well, pay was well. I was enjoying it. And the Lord told me that my season was up there. I was ready they were talking about relocating us, new opportunities ahead, new opportunities to make money, relocate, all those different types of things. And God told me that my season was up there. And let me tell you what happened. Long story short, if I would have took the promotion and relocated, that business failed. It no longer exists anymore. And so God told me it was time for me to get out of that line of work and to go into ministry full time. And so that's what we did. Nobody could figure out why we were doing that. Man, you're going to turn that down. You don't want to do it. You're not going to do that. God had said for me to go the other direction. And so that's what prayer does for you. That's how we embrace change. That's how we successfully operate in change, keeping and staying in close proximity with God in prayer. And, a lot of people may not want to hear that, but wasn't nothing created that God didn't create. And so we got to go back to the creator of the thing in order for us to have success at the thing that he created. Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about a few more things that causes change that in life, some times in life where change happens. We talked about graduation from high school. What about marriage?
Oh,
What about marriage?
yes, buddy.
Having a child.
Yes.
Okay, these are real life situations where people's lives change drastically. Okay, I believe that if we can't be totally prepared, but I believe when we start talking about marriage is for grown folk. Let's be honest. Let's be prepared for it. Let's get counseling. Let's look to those who have had success in marriage. Let's not reject wisdom. Okay. And prepare for it. Let's prepare for it. Many times we negate the order of relationships. Okay. And then what we do is, instead of us cultivating relationships, we're operating in vile affections and moving forward on lust, and hasn't developed the relationship that really needed to develop, because you don't even really know one another. The order of relationships is attraction, and then friendship, and then emotions. And, that's where you get where you find out if a person really cares about you or not. There's too many times I've heard in counseling with marriages, they don't care anything about me. Well, they never did, really. You skip gradients in the relationship, and you didn't know that they were a non-caring person, and now you've attached yourself to that because you skipped a gradient. And so that's that phase. Come on. And then, so you got,
I told you, Bishop,
you got friendship. It's okay to be friends. Okay. And don't be rubbing sticks together. Don't do that. You start fires. Don't do that. Friends don't kiss. Friends don't rub on each other. Friends don't be holding hands. Okay. Be friends. Learn how to be a friend. You're going to be successful in marriage. Amen. You got to be friends, because the friendship will hold a marriage together when you ain't in love this month. Come on.
I like that you are
in and out of love.
Yeah.
All right.
I like that you are expressing, your thoughts, coming from a man's point of view, a godly man at that. It's relationships have been a come and go. I've been single for a very long period of time, and I'm thinking like, oh Lord, like I said, is there anyone out there for me? Did he lose his way? But,
well, our next topic is going to be single.
I'm satisfied, that God has given me the time to understand myself, because just like you said about the change, I feel like I've been changing ever since, I come into myself. At age 17, I had a child.
Okay.
You have to grow up fast, then you graduate, and then you go to college, then you get married, because I was doing things thinking that it would make it better.
Yeah.
As a substitute. And then as soon as I got married, and I did have counseling or whatever, but I felt like I got, like when you start wanting to do right, you accept the Lord, but somebody else my husband did not accept the Lord when I accepted him. So then it becomes a blame game.
Yeah.
But I had a village around me to try to cultivate the relationships and things like that. People were praying for you, but you do have to be prepared. So I want people to understand, and the young people to know that God will prepare you when you know what you want. But first you got to go in knowing what you want, knowing what your heart's desire is. So don't leave God out of anything, especially a relationship.
Well, one of the things I found is big when we start talking about successful relationships, you got to know who you are. If you still have an identity crisis and hadn't cultivated the purpose of God for your life, you start attaching things to your life that wasn't purposeful. And so, we talk about that order relationships, attraction, friendship, emotions, commitment. And then the last phase, going back to the godly way of doing things, and then consummation of the marriage, intimacy. And many times we skip gradients. We go from attraction to intimacy, and then we try to fill everything else in. Okay. And so then we get into, and y'all know this, y'all been around the church, you've heard the teachings, ungodly soul ties. You know, we've allowed our souls to become entangled, and we weren't even two people that were assigned to walk together. You know, this is where vision and faith comes in, and you got to come to the place where you really, really, really trust God. And sometimes we've prolonged the time because we skipped grading, so we didn't have that wisdom, we didn't have that insight, and now we got to spend time being healed when we could have been enjoying that time in enjoying life. And so there's the lack of preparation is detrimental. It really, really is. And that's why, like I said, Minister D, can we get these kids to understand, you know, and when they're in the 5th grade, let's not be talking about girlfriends and boyfriends. You know, let's not talk about, you know, in the 7th grade, I just love him. You 12, you 13, you 14, you don't have a clue about life. Come on, D, turn your mic back on.
You muted.
You muted, D.
I was just saying, you have to come up there and say that in person. Because the girlfriend, boyfriend is real.
Yeah.
It is.
Real.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah. And they got to understand that when you bring two lives together, man, that is drastic change. And what needs to be is a merging of anointings.
Oh my, teach now.
That's what needs to happen, is a merging of anointings.
Come on, marriage is ministry.
It is. Marriage is ministry. And we got to make sure the maturity is there. We got to make sure that we understand the thing that we understand. Do we understand covenant? You know, so there's a lot that happens. And so those are times when life changes drastically. Talked about children. Listen at this. This is real. It's out there. That's happened. So Charlotte, you're sharing your story. Divorce happens. That's a change. That's a life change. You know, that's a change. And come on.
I was just gonna say that's a physical death.
Yes.
And your other partner is walking around, you know, and so.
But yet the relationship is dead.
The relationship is there. And so it's actually, because when you get married, you become as one. And so when you divorce, it is a ripping, all of that you have put together is a ripping apart. So your soul is literally ripped.
Okay.
So it's a process.
Okay.
It's a process. And then the kids suffer in the process. But you know how you have to go through those stages of forgiving, because you try to survive, and then after you cannot survive it, then you try to escape. You got all these different things that happen, you know, to you, but they'll be happening to your kids also. So it is, and then it requires healing, and then it requires counseling. So you just, out of what, maybe 10 years of being divorced, you feel, I just now start to feel real good about myself.
You gotta speak about it.
And it's not because of the man, it's the attachment that I had to learn, you know, that I did not really need. I need to understand what God wants for me. And when we start to learn what God has and wants for us, we will be better people to each other. And even the, you know, Christians, you know, people that call themselves Christians think that they have the ingredient or the right plan, but they leave God out.
Yeah.
And they start demonstrating through their emotions. So it's really hard, but I'm just so glad that I'm at the place that I am now, because I really have a better understanding. I do have a better understanding.
God's mercy and grace.
Ooh, thank you, God.
Yeah.
Thank
Lord.
you,
Christopher Creighton said self-forgiveness starts the healing.
Yes.
Yeah. Self-forgiveness starts the healing. And
thank you, Chris. Yes.
And that's a process.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, embracing the process. That was one of the things you said, when we going through change, embracing the process. And sometimes people get stuck in those places because they don't understand the
Mhm.
process. And so
Mhm.
I love how you said, Bishop, when you stay in close proximity to God and when you pray, he will let you in. He will give you that insight. And so
Mhm.
that's how you begin to understand why and understand what's going on. So that you can continue to embrace the process and embrace the change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amen.
Do we know there's a lot of things we've come to learn now? Do we know our love language?
I know
You know,
mine.
yeah. Do you know your love language? Do you know what communicates that someone loves you for you? And does that person care enough about you to know what their love language is? Because the materialism and all those things, won't be cutting the cake
Mhm.
when it goes down the road. All those things get old. The wedding pictures, the you can keep trying to put events over top of things, but when there's no real source of sense of oneness there, then that relationship is in trouble. It's in trouble. And so, um, as I said, life is forever changing, and we got to have preparedness. The quality of our preparation determines the quality of our performance. And one we were talking about, D, is that we've got to know the value of what we're doing. We got to be successful on purpose. You know, Stephanie, you're talking about how you have different families who develop their children for success. They develop them. They make sure they're getting exposed to the right things, that they're investing time where it needs to be invested in, making sacrifices. You know, um, yeah. D, come on! I seen you open your mic up.
I was just listening to you. I just thinking about how some families prune their young ones. They prune them. They like you said, they expose them to, even if they don't follow that exact path, they
Mm-hmm.
expose them to what can help them be more successful in
Mm-hmm.
life. And our people just don't do that enough. We just don't, and I don't know if it's we haven't weren't exposed enough ourselves. We don't know
Mm-hmm.
how to expose the children to it, but there's ways of finding out stuff. So if we want it
Yes.
bad enough, we've got to find ways to expose our children. Got to.
D, I
Well,
think
we got.
sometimes, I'm sorry, go ahead, Bishop.
I was just going to say that we got to get rid of all the wrong influences.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever your
Mhm.
interests are and your desires are, a teacher will show up for that interest or that desire. They can YouTube, they can Facebook, they can Google and find out what their interests are. And we got to make sure that they're interested in the right things, that their desires in the right place. The scripture says in Proverbs uh, 37, it says, delight yourself in me and I will give you the desires of your heart. Well, that's when your desires line up with God's desires. When your desires are off, your interests are off. And to not be interested in the right things causes you to even get into a wrong environment. As I said, they're being exposed to things. Children are. But what they're interested in what BET, well, that probably ain't even BET no more. I don't know what TikTok is teaching
Yeah,
them,
it is.
what YouTube is teaching them, what people who say that they got life going on and it looks flashy, and materialism and popularity and all those things are going on, and that interests them, and that's what they're going to begin trying to mimic. And that's why we were talking about music. Music is powerful, words are powerful, and so we need to pay attention. uh, Elder Elder Hill said that we got to take time with people. Have conversations with people. I want to know what your interests are,
Mhm.
and then be able to love them enough to tell them the truth, And I know I've had to share with people. I said, no, it's not time for you to get married yet, you know, because there's still some things that you're working out in yourself. You know, only two whole people make a whole. Two halves don't make a whole. Two whole people make a whole. And if that's really what you want, then sacrifice to get yourself prepared for marriage. We talk to young men. Young man, what's your credit score? Do you have any money? Do you have a home to take this young lady that you say you love to? Okay. Do you have a home to take her to? Can you take care of her? If she doesn't work a day in her life, are you willing to do what you have to do in order to take care of her? Because you're taking her from her father's house to your house. And if you can't do more for her than what her father can do for, or do what you need to do as far as caring for her, protecting her, okay, can you be the provider? Can you be the priest, the high priest of the household? Can you be the protector? You know, and if you cannot do those things, it's not time for you to get married. Listen, her looks and your infatuation with her is not going to care for her. It's not going to pay the bills. It's not going to cause this to have any type of longevity, because you are interested in things that are outwardly, and you need to be connected spiritually. And when that hasn't happened, there's room for disconnect. And so when we got to talk to them, we got to talk to the young ladies and say, listen, you know, you still changing your hair 50 times a week. You know, you got green hair one week, you got short hair one week, long hair one week, you look this way, you're dressing that way. Do you know who you are? You know, your outer appearance reflects a lot of things about what's going on in you on the inside. Right. You know, you're still mimicking images. And if you're mimicking images, that means that as life happens, you will change like the wind blows. And, you know, so we got to have these what I want to say, these candid conversations with people when we start talking about changing. Now that's intentional change, because I'm preparing for what I say I desire. Oh my.
Right. I mean, you said a lot, but I think the society that we're living in is based on how the wind blows. They change so often that sometimes you don't even know who you're talking to. So what do we do? Where do we go from here? And I like, you know, the fact that when we're in school, we you know, our curriculum, first thing we start teaching about is all about me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They're 4 years old. We're trying to teach them about themselves, but I would like to take it a step further when we're in church. You know, I think we as a Black culture should be teaching those things in church. I mean, that's me. You know, I think we should have them a little portfolio to take, you know, from when they start in Sunday school all the way up to high school. Then we take trips. We take them to colleges. We do all of those things. But the problem is when kids make that connection and they go into a different direction. That's when they open up to a society where they can make their choices to see where their choices work. And some of their choices just don't work.
That's correct.
I mean,
that's correct.
You know, I think we do need to have a lot more out there, you know, so that they won't. But again, I like what you say sometimes about the environment. Do you think our kids, when they go off, do you think they should go off and not return home? You know, I always think we should give them a choice, you know, whether they want to go off or whether they want to make a living at home. Are you saying that you would much rather that they go beyond their environment to try to make a living?
No, not necessarily, because vision comes in the midst of desolate places. You don't have to leave Tupelo to be successful, but what you do have to know is what the will of God is for your life.
Right.
Okay. And so I think that it's a myth that if I go to Atlanta, I'm going to have it popping and life is going to be good. Because if you're the same person you were in Tupelo, you're going to be the same person you were in Atlanta, and Atlanta's going to chew you up and spit you out.
Exactly.
Okay? And so that's not a truth. But you do need to understand, because all of us are called to a people and we're called to a place, and we have a purpose in life. And our greatest purpose is found in Romans 8:29, that we are conformed into the image of his son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. I think that we got away from what Jesus taught, seeking first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. And we made materialism, we made popularity, we've made power, we've made the things of this world more important than the kingdom of God, which is righteousness, peace, and joy in the Holy Ghost. And so then we're just on the wrong track. We're just on the wrong track. And so that's where we get wrong influences. We get in wrong environments. Okay. And environment is people, places, and things. And when you're out of the will of God, you are setting yourself up for destruction. And so we just got to have more conversations. We got to tell them why they don't need to get involved in the wrong relationships. It doesn't have to be intimate relationships. It can just be the wrong friends, and we got to make sure that what's instilled in them and what they know, we need to find out, do they agree with it? Because something I found out, D, and you probably see this in fifth graders, they'll say, yeah, and they'll go along to get along, but the whole time they're in a disagreement with what you're teaching them and what you're sharing with them, and they're just waiting for the opportunity to do something different. They're just waiting for the opportunity to do something. They know what to say in your presence. They know how to make it good. We grew up in church. You grew up in church. How many people... They went to church when they were supposed to. They did all of that. They went to vacation Bible school. They went all those things. But boy, they were doing it to please their parents.
Right.
They were doing it because that's what they had to do to live in that household. But that wasn't the way they really believed they should live. And then the moment they got the opportunity, going off to college, I'm getting out of here. I'm out of this place just as soon as I because they never agreed with or never fully understood the things of God. They never understood or developed that right relationship with God to be able to trust his will and his ways for their life. And now the world is there to gather them up and to destroy them. So we got to have more conversations. We got to ask the harder question. Do you agree with this? Do you believe this?
Right.
Yeah. Do you agree with this? Because we know, what they understand, what they believe. Okay. Because if they don't believe in it, they don't agree with it. You have too many people that have said, well, I just want to do that because that's what you wanted me to do. But that was never what they wanted to do.
That is so true. It's more like discipleship to me,
No, for sure.
For sure. And you will want to encourage that, but as soon as you start your discipleship or your ministry, you have to have that same agreement with the parents, because when correction comes, there's a whole lot of, disagreements.
Absolutely.
And when you're working with kids, sometimes that becomes a tug of war, and you don't get anything done because you need change to happen. And we are always stagnated because we can teach, just like we always say, as far as I've been, you can only teach as far as you've been.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But then if you have the support and the connections can get you farther, but you have to be in agreement. So you can go to church. We've been going to church forever, but when are we going to graduate to schools? When are we going to graduate to gyms and to other things, to where the kids can go on site and get their needs met instead of going to other churches, to other, other culture.
When it becomes a priority, and when we're willing to make the sacrifices, and when our interests and desires are lining up with what God is concerned with, when we're not concerned with what the world is trying to do and keeping up with the world, that we understand that we got to prepare this next generation, that society doesn't look like the way that it's looking today because of the irresponsibility, listen, of parenting. And that takes, you got to be mature to admit that and make the sacrifices. And so that's where we are, but we got to have conversations about it. And our time is up today. We got to get out of here.
Oh my God.
But I have enjoyed, listen, we're just talking about embracing change, man. And what we got, changes we need to make. Change is happening all the time. Different things change, how it impacts our life in different phases of life. And we can have success at it, but it's going to require preparing ourselves and asking ourselves some hard questions, making some sacrifices, and listen, committing our ways unto the Lord, because he's the one who's the author and finisher of our faith, and he declared our end from beginning. All right, we're gone. God bless you all. Thank everybody for commenting on today, bro. Creighton and Renee Dickerson and all of you guys. We appreciate you so much. We love you all. We'll see you back next week. Thank you all. Y'all hold on in the studio.
Okay. Bye.